Being 5:01, I would like to call the meeting to order of the Capital Outlay Committee. Today is September 30th, 2024. The Zoom chat will not be monitored. Participants who wish to speak must raise the hand icon until the chair asks them to unmute. Note that this meeting is being televised, streamed, or recorded by Bourne TV. If anyone in the audience is recording or videotaping, please acknowledge such at this time. If anyone from the public wishes to access the meeting, they can do so by calling the following conference line, 1-929-205-6099. The Zoom meeting ID is 831-5627-4147, and the password is the word capital, C-A-P-I-T-A-L, all capital letters. I'll call the meeting to order. I have attendance, and the first item of discussion is Article 11 for the Fall Town Meeting for CPC Buzzards Bay land acquisition. Mr. Johnson, would you like to make a...
Tim's there, I believe.
Oh.
Tim Lydon.
Mr. Lydon, would you like to make a presentation, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Tim Lydon, Town of Bourne Engineering Department. We came to sponsor this project because we're doing the Queen Sewell Watershed Stormwater Action Plan. Among many action items, one of the items was to acquire this parcel, and you know that's kind of like a final declaration. But what led us there is there's several outfalls of town-owned facilities that kind of either overrun through this area or are integrated with this land. A couple of years ago, we received a grant for $183,000 to do this watershed plan. The town-owned parking facility is currently being redeveloped. A portion of that parking lot, a portion of that parcel that we're looking to acquire is already being maintained by the town. It's a little bit of, boundary issue. So the water that runs off of that parking lot right now is untreated and goes into this parcel. And the short answer would be acquiring this parcel to do some remediation efforts is cheaper than actually trying to get drainage easements on it because it is recorded land, registered land. So in the long run, there's several water quality and environmental sensitivity components to this project, but the acquisition of this project property is going to be outlined in our action plan that is due out next month. So it's my hope that everybody sees this as a positive project and we can proceed forward.
Okay, and what is the value of the project?
I think we put $50,000 on the application, or $55,000 on the application.
Okay.
It is a 3.3 acre parcel with some upland.
Somewhat?
Upland. It's mostly wet. It's mostly wetlands. It's adjacent to the pond. And the reason that the larger parcel didn't get developed is because it's mostly wetlands, and there's some topography issues where it's tough to get siting for a septic system.
And what's the intent to do with the property later on?
So because water overflows on this property from other properties, we're looking to do some mitigation for the town-owned parking lot to have overflow onto this parcel. Right now, it currently already goes there untreated in a large part of that watershed. So we'd be looking to do a green stormwater infrastructure project here, which we have actually been approved for in some way or another. But whether or not we can acquire this parcel kind of can dictate how much of that first inch of runoff we can get. So it comes down to math, and I just think it's a really big advantage for the town to acquire this parcel for several reasons related to the environment.
So you say it's untreated now, but you would be wanting to treat it later with a green project?
Yeah, we actually were approved for $375,000 to do a project on the ground for Buzzards Bay National Estuary Program.
To treat it?
Yeah, street water. We're gonna rebuild the parking lot.
Okay. And that's funds from a grant that you already have?
Yeah, we just received it last week.
Oh, great. Will that cover the cost of the entire project to treat it?
For the parking lot, yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah, 100%.
Excellent. Any questions from the board?
Tim, is this privately owned property right now?
It currently is private, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
My question.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Did you have a question regarding this, Mr.?
No, I'd just like to state for the record that this property has been appraised, and it does support this application.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lyden.
Thank you, everyone.
That's Article 11.
You're gonna wait and do both of them at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll wait until the end to vote on them. Okay. The next item is Article 12, and this is a conservation restriction at 541 County Road.
Yes.
Mr.
Thank you.
Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, Marlene, I'd like to introduce Mr. Steve Ballantyne. He is the president of the Bourne Conservation Trust. And so the Bourne Conservation Trust filed, like everybody else, filed an application with the CPC, requesting $2.1 million to come out of the open space recreation reserves. And the purchase ended up as the town as possibly approving and purchasing out a conservation restriction, which will be held by the town via the Conservation Commission.
How much was you requesting, sir?
2.1
2.1 million?
2,100,000. So I will go further, but I'd like to defer to Mr. Ballantyne to give a little history of how this came about, please.
Can you hear me okay?
If you can speak right in the microphone there, that, on the other side, sir. There you go.
We initially got involved, let me give you a little background on the trust. We were formed in 1980 as a nonprofit 501c3. And since 1980, our mission was and still is to preserve village character, roadside landscapes, large parcels, linkage parcels for public enjoyment, primarily walking trails, which we maintain. We also maintain a couple of properties that the town of Bourne owns, and we do the maintenance on, provide the trail system, do the maintenance on the trails. We also hold multiple, probably a dozen conservation restrictions for the town of Bourne held under the 501c3 organization. This is a little unique to what we've done in the past, which is to solicit funds from the public. We have a fairly sizable mailing list and a group of supporters. Not so much in the beginning until we got going, and then from example, I think we've gained a great deal of support over the years and have purchased many parcels of property, small and large. And have held them for public enjoyment. This parcel, I received word that it came on the market at the end of July. I was away at the time, but found out about it and thought it was such an important piece that we should preserve it. a little different, as I was alluding to, in the fact that I think would have a great deal of trouble raising public funds for this land. Most of what we've done is in the middle of other areas, villages, where the importance was great, and we had good support. I think we'd have trouble finding that support for this kind of an acquisition privately. But I thought it was an extremely important piece for the town to obtain. And I knew that the town would not be able to accommodate a P&S purchase on this property in a timely fashion. We were able to act fairly quickly when there's a need, and we're not encumbered by the processes that the town would have to go through to acquire such a parcel. And I felt that I was quite sure that that parcel would have been sold to a private developer before the town could have reacted to it. So that's why we stepped in with the hope and need for the town to be part of this partnership, so to speak, between the Bourne Conservation Trust and the town of Bourne, with the ultimate goal of the property being saved to access, to add to an already very large group of parcels totaling 460, 470 acres within the town forest, the Four Ponds Conservation Area, and the town of Bourne Water District properties, where this property is in a Zone 2 well field designation, right next to several of the town's existing wells. So the importance was not only conservation for public use, for trails or whatever, to expand the already existing conservation land. I think the primary importance of this property beyond that is the protection of our water supply. And you can't dispute the fact that it's sitting right in the middle of it. It has access right off of County Road, about 400 feet of frontage on County Road. Maybe can I move this?
You can probably pick it up and take it with you if you want.
You can see on the map here where County Road runs, water department here with the water department buildings. And this is the blue areas are our water district properties. The little circles are wells that already exist. And you can see, and the property they were talking about is in red. Town forests, Four Ponds is all in this area here. Four Ponds is also access off of Barlow's Landing Road, but this is a additional access right here, I'd say, where the town of Bourne on the previously existing Valley Bars Road has put in a parking area and a fence for public use. Some years ago, the water district, when they were putting these wells in, the water district purchased a small portion, you see this blue portion here, from the same family for maintaining a distance from their wells. It's required that I think it's 400 and some odd feet that they have to have surrounding their wells. So that's what that funny little blue acreage is. Anyway, the importance of this property, I think, is obvious, and the Bourne Conservation Trust stepped in to get it off of the market so it would not be prone to development. And I've asked and applied to the Community Preservation Committee to use CPA funding for this purchase, it was decided between the town, actually Barry and myself, to structure it such that the Bourne Conservation Trust will own the property. The town of Bourne, the CPC, will be acquiring a conservation restriction on the property to ensure that no other use can happen on this property and protect it in perpetuity, so that the only use can be conservation, trails, just as are all around that property now. There was an appraisal done by the town, which is a necessity, which came in. We didn't know at the time how it was going to react. All of our action was between the town and myself, through Barry and the CPC committee, the application going into them. We didn't know how it was really going to wash out. We knew what we were talking about as far as the purchase price, but an appraisal had not come in at that point. But as it's developed, the appraisal easily justifies the price of 2.1 for the conservation restrictions. I think the appraisal is public now anyway. You should have seen a copy of it.
I have it right here.
Okay. So that's our ask anyway, is for the 2.1 to be voted on at town meeting, and in the process saving this parcel for future generations and
Okay.
water quality.
For purposes of information, so that we understand this transaction, I think I heard you say that you did a fundraising?
No.
You did not?
No.
Okay. So this property is now sitting, waiting, so this property has not been purchased yet. It's
That's
waiting for a
That's-
decision from the town whether or not they're gonna buy it.
We have it under agreement for $2.1 million.
Okay.
With a closing date of November 12th,
All right.
which gives time certainly for the town meeting to address this, and it would allow us the monies to close with.
So you're looking for the full 2.1 from CPC funds?
Yes, and I've been assured that it is in their possession at this time, and will not require any borrowing from the town.
So I see that, a couple of things. I see that the value of the property came in at 2.770,
Yes,
right? And then, as soon as you put a conservation value, attachment to it, the value then only becomes 400,000.
yes, just under 400. Well, the value of the property under a restriction
Correct.
is $2,370,000, I think is what it said.
That's
the difference between the unencumbered.
correct.
It's
Once, in other
that-
words, once
that-
you put that encumbrance on it, it loses any value on the open market.
It loses about $400,000, yes.
Oh, it loses 400,000.
No, it-
I thought it went down to 400,000 from the 2 point, okay.
It is.
Yes, it does, or no, I'm
No,
wrong?
as I understand it right now, the land as it sits right now is valued at 2.7. Okay, the CR goes on, it drops to 400, so the net is 2.3.
Yes.
This says total value after conservation restriction,
Correct,
400,000.
that's correct.
So
That's
it's
the
only worth
appraisal.
400,000 after the restriction is on it.
Right, that's on. That's what the appraiser stated.
That's, yeah,
That's
We're getting
not-
two
that's
stories
not-
here.
That's not correct. It loses $400,000 in value because of the restriction. I think you're, I don't know what you're reading it from there, but
I'm reading from the appraisal itself.
it, the way it should read, and I'm not.
Yeah, sure,
I-
by
I
all
don't-
means.
I don't have it with me, but the way it should read is that the value of the property unencumbered on the open market today
Mm-hmm.
has a value of .77, I believe.
Yeah,
correct?
If you are to encumber it through a registered conservation restriction, which is actually registered with the state as well, you lose $400,000 in value. The value of the CR, the value of the land encumbered by a CR is $2,370,000.
Give me just 1 second here, please.
It's, the 400,000 was confusing there, I think, actually, but that's the way it should read.
it's the second page, Wayne. It's the
Right, so-
explanation.
Well, okay, so when I go down to the next page, it says, loss in value due to conservation restriction, $2,370,000.
That becomes the value.
No, that's the loss in value.
That's right.
That's, no, it's not.
I mean, I can show it to
No,
you.
you're right. I got it
Okay.
right here.
Yeah, okay,
That means
I mean, I understand, once the restriction is on it, it's not gonna be used for anything else.
Right.
It has no commercial value.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay. So out of this 2.1 million that you're requesting, Mr. Johnson, I see that we barely have sufficient funding. Are you taking all the money from open space?
Right now, in the reserves is 2.3.
Correct. So all the money would come from there?
That's correct. Plus, I don't want to add, but 2 other applications will come from there also. I don't want to mix it up, but we have the funds are available.
Do you have funds available for the other 2 requests?
All in the same line item. The one you just approved, I don't want to get off on a tangent, I'm sorry.
Correct. No, but, well, I want to make sure that we have enough funds.
Are we talking about the 55,000 coming out of CPA also?
Yes.
Oh, he didn't say that, so I didn't
Well,
know.
that's
Well,
where it
it
is.
was listed as a CPC article on the agenda.
The open space reserve as of June 30, 24, was 2,357,753.36.
Okay, and what's the value of the other request?
The other request was 55, is the request from
Correct.
Tim now.
And you said you have one more.
Right, and I don't know the status of that because he didn't mention it, but he did file an application with us for an additional 80,000 for temporary easements, but I don't know where that is.
Okay,
But we definitely have sufficient for this town meeting.
so you'd have roughly 200,000 left in that account.
Thereabouts.
Is that,
Yes, but that's at the end of June 30, 24. Now you go into 25.
right, I see that you have approximately 2 million more coming in,
That's correct.
approximately?
Yep.
That's from taxes.
Pardon?
That's from taxes?
Yes, it's the 3% surcharge.
It's the
Oh, I know what it
fiscal-
is.
Fiscal year 26,
I know what it is.
So
25, because we're in 25 now, right?
26.
We're
Doesn't
in
matter.
25 now.
We're in 25 right now.
Right.
So he's anticipating the money from the next year.
Are you anticipating money from 26 or 25?
No, the reserves.
Yeah.
From 24 reserves for all 3 applications we're
Correct.
discussing. The money, in other words, the way I look at it, it's already been paid for, it's in the bank. These are the funds that are available for this town meeting.
And it's sitting there.
These are reserves.
Okay.
We're not using estimated revenues in this particular town meeting. That's it. We have another article, I don't want to get into it.
Oh, yeah, no, that's fine, that's fine.
So let me understand. There's 2.3 million available. And we're up now to 2.155 with these 2 projects, which leaves about 150,000 left
Left.
for the next one.
In
that
the
you're gonna-
reserves.
I
And
understand.
now we go into FY '25, which
I
we're in
understand.
already.
Okay.
So it's better to use reserves, monies that's available now, trying to do estimated revenues and all that, because we've already paid for this, so to speak, in quotes. So the money has been collected, it is there.
What is the total acreage, please?
29.8.
29.8 acres?
And may I make an aside, please? The aside is, so everybody understands, there is currently a house located on that property. According to the appraisal, as well to the assessor's field card, it's uninhabitable. The assessor's card says tear down. There's mold, there's water damage, etc. The BCT has already committed to tearing down that house off of the property.
Should be happening this week, actually. I got a release from the owners to do it early before closing, just to have a clean slate.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And may I add one other thing, actually, too? We'll talk about the conservation restriction. It's a kind of a rule of thumb application that the restricted property in general is about 85% of the full value. That's a kind of a rule of thumb, and I don't know how that translates into what we did, but it's probably close. And I want to mention, too, that I know this is a big ask. It's a very valuable property, not just in monetary value, but as I've said, for conservation and for wellhead protection. But the 2.1 million is justified through the appraisal, and in addition to the town's input, we have applied for a state grant, which I feel quite confident about. We won't know about it, and it's been applied for. They've seen the full application to the state, and they've also seen the appraisal. Their money, or their acceptance of this application, we should know about towards the end of October, 1st of November. And then it takes usually a couple months before you actually saw any cash from it. But we've committed to use that, the Bourne Conservation Trust has committed to use that state grant, a forestry grant, which we have applied for $1,050,000, so just over $1 million. That's committed to the town of Bourne. So when we do receive that, if and when we receive it, it will be granted to the town of Bourne to offset the price of their CPC funding.
I have discussed this with town council, et cetera, and number one, I want everybody to understand, I send out a lot of stuff over the weekend and everything else, but we normally don't release appraisals, because there's an exception in the law that till the project's over. But because that's one question I asked, because as a stipulation of the grant, an appraisal had to be submitted. Mm-hmm. So town council advised, just in conversation, that it's in, quote, in everybody's best interest to put it out publicly now. So that's why you saw this appraisal.
Sure.
Prior to the project. So like Steve said, and also it'll be through Marlene, of course, not us, but there will be a memorandum of understanding to be signed by the selectmen or whoever needs to sign it prior to town meeting. So, and that's been being worked out with their representative, Mr. Robinson. Mark Robinson is representing he's the compact executive of about 6 or 8 land trusts. He'll be here tomorrow night, unfortunately not tonight. And that will be executed prior to town meeting, so that's in writing. It's not just when we get it, we're giving it to you.
Okay. Can I back up just a little bit, please? So you're applying for this approximately $1 million grant. And that's committed to, is that committed to go back to CPC
No.
or to the town?
Oh, no, it would come back through the, I assume, through the CPC to offset our
To
costs.
offset this cost?
Yes,
So those funds will go back to
to the
CPC,
CPC.
if you get it?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
That could be highly technical in my mind, because CPC gets money from different sources, but I'm not sure. A
It's a-
grant
it's-
like that could be
it's-
one of the sources, but
It's
that's
a reimbursement.
technicality.
Right,
It's a reimbursement, and that's how it's structured with the state, too. If this is reimbursable money,
right.
it would either come to if the town applied for it, it would be the same idea. The towns can apply for the same source, or a private trust can do it, like we did. And it is labeled as reimbursable grant money.
John, the CPC operates, and how we get our revenue is two sources. This 3% surcharge, okay, results in about $1.8 million, okay, on all real estate. And then there's supposed to, the state law, is the state trust fund that is distributed, which is based on real estate sales, et cetera. Right now, there's 196 cities and towns within that trust fund. So we always have been using the fund, $250,000. So you add the two, you get your equals of revenue, and that's how we break it out. That's our two sources. This one is a one-time, unique situation.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Sir, how many acres does the town of Bourne have in conservation land trust? Approximately.
The town of Bourne or the Bourne Conservation Trust?
Just in the town of Bourne?
I have to go back and look at it. I do have a sheet that's broken down. As a matter of fact, we have pending over the years, and Mark has helped us with this, I think about 5 or 6 conservation trusts that were sent to the state a couple of years ago. There was one gentleman in the state, reviews them all, he left. So Mark just apprised me that the state has just asked him for a little bit more information on description. So we've had, at least I know we filed 5 or 6, and I'd have to go back. Pending.
I mean, do you think we have a couple hundred acres, or do we have 1,000 acres?
The
or-
Bourne Conservation Trust owns about 350 acres.
Okay, the whole trust?
That's the Conservation Trust. Now,
Right.
the town of Bourne, I really don't know.
No, I'm asking, what does the Conservation Trust own in Bourne?
Oh, okay, yeah, about 350 acres.
350 acres.
And restrictions, these conservation restrictions are probably another 50 anyway, that we monitor the conservation restrictions on. But we own outright 350 acres.
Okay.
I think the latest purchase was at Ann Marita, Animal Rescue. League
Animal Rescue League was our last purchase.
in Catawba,
That was,
Correct.
across the street from the Animal Rescue League, about 18 acres.
that's right.
That was ready for development, and the BCT stepped in again and kept it out of development. So I think I sum it up this way, just in my own mind. What a conservation restriction is doing, we're buying out if it passes, the development rights on the property. That's the way I look at it, for preservation and perpetuity,
Right.
for protection of water wells and public access, et cetera.
Okay. Marlene?
Thank you. So I don't dispute anything that's said here about the value of the property or its importance. I do want to remind the committee, though, kind of what we've been working on for the past couple of years as far as what priorities have been identified for capital improvements. And as you know, at the last town meeting, you moved forward, and the town meeting moved forward with a feasibility study for the town's outdoor recreation areas. And that work is currently in progress and will develop a capital plan for your outdoor recreation areas. So I just want you to be mindful that if these reserves are used for land purchases, which they're certainly able to be used for, you just have to understand that it's going to mean that it's a trade-off, and it's going to mean there's going to be less available to implement the recreation studies that we've already started with. So, as you know, everything is constrained. The budgets are constrained, our time is constrained, our ability to do project is constrained. So I just want you to keep that in mind when you make the decision. So you're not, so we have the whole context of kind of what we've been doing for a couple of years.
So how much is that worth or going to cost?
So, I mean,
And also, and could it come out of this $1 million that's the grant being applied for?
so the outdoor recreation capital improvement plan that is under development, we're starting with 4 areas. There's many more, we're not even into feasibility yet. But by the end of the day, it's gonna cost to bring all of your outdoor recreation areas up to kind of the level of play that the recreation committee would like to see. It's gonna cost millions and millions of dollars. So, if this money is not available in reserves when those projects are developed, I just want you to be aware of that, that those projects will have to wait or be cut back or not done. So that's the nature of the work here.
So, within that discussion, I understand that this is a completely different discussion in a sense than yours. So you're developing those plans, and what is the expected time plan to develop that project? Is this a 5-year project, or any idea?
So the feasibility study was funded last May. The Recreation Department is under contract with their consultant. The Recreation Committee is actively working on it. It's entirely possible that it'll be done over phases, because we're not going to be able to do everything all at once.
Correct.
But it's entirely possible that the Recreation Committee and the Recreation Department would be coming to the May town meeting next year for design money to do the engineering and the design for rebuilding those parks and fields and playgrounds.
Would they be looking for design money for total project of the whole thing, or would they, again, look for design money in phases?
I can't answer that.
Okay,
The work hasn't been completed yet.
okay. Being very sensitive to the lack of land being available for town resources, in view of the fire station, it took us 6 years to find a parcel. Does the town have the land already, and are we then doing the recreational design on existing land? Or are we gonna be looking for land for the rec department also?
No, these are rebuilding.
Existing land?
Yeah, these are
Okay, that's huge.
rebuilding existing parks that the town already owns. They're just in very bad repair.
Okay. Did you have
Yeah,
Is
may I
the
co-
only source of money for the upgrade of those parks and facilities CPC money?
Either that or go to the town meeting and ask for money. One of the two of them.
So, as you know, CPC has those specific set-asides. And that is typically how recreation has been funded. I think that it would be, we can certainly ask for free cash or borrowing, but I think it is unrealistic that free cash or borrowing would be heavily used.
I'd like to follow up with Marlene. She's absolutely right. Second thing is, I'm speaking on behalf of the CPC. We're aware of this because we also, I believe we funded the.
You did.
Yeah, funded the study. And we're fully supportive at this point. And I know, because I looked it up, that we have the outdoor recreation plan, which was completed. in the local comprehensive plan. That was been completed and finalized, and it's up on the website. And also with the Cape Cod Commission Regional mentions this type of thing. So we are totally supportive. And if I'm correct, which I think I am, the open space for estimated revenues for FY '25 today that we're in would be $3,632,351 in our line item. And then it breaks it out, like Marlene said, historic resources, community housing, and undesignated fund balance. The monies in that balance can be moved between the fund, to fund a particular project. So we're looking towards that, and we're aware of it, and we're looking forward to it, because the needs are certainly there. And that's where those funds, I'm sure we get applications in January or February. That's where whatever they ask for, that's where that'll come from. But I want to let you know, Marlene's absolutely correct, and we're supportive.
I mean, we talked about this last year in our meetings about the potential cost of that whole rec project, and I know that there was quite a bit of concern with the price tag that we had seen originally. And again, we don't know how that's developed and where that's going to come in, so.
Right. It's my obligation to bring it up.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm glad you did, because that jumps on the radar a little bit.
Well, go ahead, John, I'm sorry.
If I remember correctly, last year or the year before, there was a plan to spend $9 million out in the back of this building.
And that's correct.
That fell.
And everybody agreed that was not the way to go. And instead, we're going back, we're following the will of we're following the direction of the people. We're starting small with the feasibility study on these 4 areas. We'll advance them to design, we'll get construction money, but to town-wide, looking at your outdoor recreation, it'll be over a number of years, but it will be expensive.
My other question is, in relation to this property here becoming basically town property. Not to repeat myself too much from the last meeting, but as I understand it, you don't have to go very far up County Road, and we're about to try to buy property from the town of Barnstable, for which, as far as I know, we don't have a use. It's just buy the property. As I said at the last meeting, I don't understand that, and because, again, if we don't have a use for it, I think it was something like $750,000 for that property. My other question is, why doesn't this kind of play in with the water district as acquiring this property?
Well, the commissioners, reviewed it, and at the time I don't know exactly what happened, if they even got into this at all, but we have a letter of support, as you saw from them.
Yeah.
And actually, John, because you and I and everybody, we live on the other side, these funds are available now. The district probably had more to it, to the tax on the water tax, et cetera. I don't know that. We didn't go to the, because this is just a unique thing that just appeared. Mr. Austin all of a sudden just decided to sell it all. Before it was in increments, et cetera. So, I don't know how else to explain it, because if I go to the commissioners and we vote something, they're gonna probably have a debt, pay for it with some kind of a debt situation, and now you paid the surcharge, and now you're paying for the district. So these funds are available for absolutely what this is for. So, the district goes from the Rotary down to Falmouth.
I know, I understand that, but what's not clear in my mind is, from the water district's perspective, I read what the information came out, but it really isn't clear to me how crucial this is to the water district and the future of the source of water.
I thought it was pretty well stated in the letter, but I will go back.
Well, I know they said they support it.
No, yeah,
Yeah.
I will go back, John, and ask that question.
For Marlene, the money that John is talking about, the county property, that's already been approved a couple of years ago, correct?
2019.
Right, so I mean, the town's already voted that money, it's sitting there, so we don't have to re-vote any money for it.
That's for the property from the,
County,
from the Barnstable County?
yes.
Okay, somewhere along the line, I missed out on why we want to do that. But
Well, honestly, I would support a greater effort to buy parcels of vacant land for future town use, because it is impossible to find property around any place in town, and it's only going to get harder later on when the town is looking for some property.
But
So
we
if we,
constantly hear that Bourne has a tremendous need for housing. And the more property we buy, the less property available for that purpose. And part of our solution for that is, to put another pair of shoes that I wear, is that we now make it almost a snap to turn your house into a rental property that, in neighborhoods that
Sure.
never were designed for rental properties.
right. Okay, I think we're beyond the scope of our
Yeah, I understand.
conversation here, but,
No, but I'd like to comment, because if I might, I know I'm off, but we looked at that. John, that question came up during our public hearing, okay? So what we did was, on behalf of the CPC, reached out to the partnership and the trust. And I attended their meeting, and a member of the partnership is a real estate agent, et cetera, very knowledgeable of this property. And he actually went out and had a developer, whatever that is, take a look at this, and he reported in open session that try to develop that parcel because of the water well situation. It's unfeasible for a developer to come in and develop that, like you would normally suspect, and the lots would be much, much higher than affordable housing. So that question was raised.
thank you. Any other questions from the board?
I'm not quite clear on John's question. What will happen if this doesn't happen?
Leave that to Steve.
We would have to find the other revenue somewhere. We're obligated to close in November. We've put a deposit on it of $100,000.
So we would lose that?
I would lose that, yes. Or we would need to go into a borrowing situation, which I don't really want to do, because that just escalates the price significantly. I felt it was a fair value for the property, and as it turns out, through an appraisal, it was. And I think just so important that the town save this.
So the P&S is for the 2.1.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. And so, like Steve, he contacted me and said, you know, this is happening. I said, no, et cetera. So we had a lot of conversations, and they stepped up, and at least it gives us an opportunity to say yes or no. And I might just add, and recently, you might see this in the Cape Cod Times, Harwich, they're doing the same thing. Today's paper, Cranberries instead of forest, Sandwich 87 point acres for preservation, et cetera, similar type thing that we're doing. So that was all in the front page of the Cape Cod Times. We do have support letters, I'm talking about from the CPC side, from the Pocasset Village Association, from the Pocasset Water Quality Association, and a lot of others. Oh, and a direct abutter to the land. They're all on record in support. So I guess maybe I can sum this up. The simplistic way I look at it is this, that the article calls for the 2.1 million to be appropriated. That's number one. If the article passes, then obviously the funds are coming out of the existing revenues. So that's number one. Number two, if it passes, the purpose of it is to buy a conservation restriction, to stop the development rights on the property. Two. Number three, the funds will go over to the Bourne Conservation Trust for their sale. Number four, basically, the grant opportunity is out there. It's been filed, it's been received, and the memorandum of understanding will be executed prior to town meeting. And then the conservation restriction, town council has been provided by them a draft of a conservation restriction for his prior review. So that's where the whole thing comes. And it just happened again because Mr. Austin decided to pull up the whole land. What he and I had been talking about over a period of time, Valley Bar Road North, Valley Bar Road South. He and I have been talking about those little lots along the south, and that's where the water district stanchion is, and the pump station, et cetera. And I've kind of told Mr. Austin, well, those little lots, I don't think the town's going to be interested. And then all of a sudden, this happened. This was not something that was planned. I understand that. We all understand that.
Okay. Thank you.
Lee?
Yes.
I have a question. I'm sorry to be late, but I think I understood enough of what was going on. I just wanted to mention that the county land, one of the reasons that the town people wanted to purchase that property was because the neighbors all up and down County Road had no objection to, I would say, I would have no objections to low-income housing put there. But what we did not want was the 150-bed hospital built there for recovering alcoholics and drug abusers, mostly because of the senior residence area and so on and so forth. When we already have the mental health facility down the road, which was, I finally learned after many years, was happened because the state and the county had an agreement for that, so the town had no voice in that land being taken for the mental health facility. So that's kind of some of the background. But I do have a question about if, say, the town turned it down and did not want to purchase the property, would this affect the water department in any way, or our head wells to have it used for something else?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Well, basically, Carol, what's being said here tonight is that the water district is in favor of this as further, as further protection for.
Right, okay, well, that's a big point. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a tendency to oversimplify.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Next article, next issue, upgrade on the fire department. That grant was not.
So I have a couple of updates on a number of the fire department's capital requests. One, if you remember last week, the chief asked for $45,000 for gear, and that was in the event that we were awarded the SAFER grant to add 4 firefighters. We don't have it in writing yet, but we have it on very good verbal authority that we will not be receiving the SAFER grant.
Okay.
So we are removing that request from the town meeting warrant and will not be moving forward with that $45,000.
Okay. Was that a specific article in the?
It was on your chart on last week's agenda.
Okay.
Yes. It's part of Article 6, I believe, or I think 6. But it's in the chart. Secondly, again, we don't have it in writing, but we have it on good verbal authority that we did not receive the AFG grant. So we will be proceeding with the request for 1 fire engine as the borrowing article. So those are the two grant updates. And then as I was discussing the roof for Station 3 with our engineer, there's a question of whether or not the department will need to move out of the third floor of the station during construction, just during construction. We're not sure yet. So I'm asking to increase that funding by $15,000 just in case we have to rent trailers for the temporary construction period. That's more money than we'll need, but I don't want to leave us short. And we're hoping not to have to do that at all. We're hoping to be able to stay in place during construction, but that's a question that we have to, it's a contingency we have to be prepared for.
Okay.
Wayne, not requesting the $45,000 and particularly increasing the other by 15, should we vote that?
Yes, I would like you to let me know if you are okay with both of those changes.
Okay.
So you want to vote from us to add 15,000 for the possible rental of a trailer?
For the roof project.
So add a $15,000 to the roof project.
Yep, add 15 grand to the roof project.
And deduct 45, so we're ahead 30.
Thank you. Okay. So, Carol is on, so we have to take individual votes, roll call votes. Let's see. Okay, so is there any other items to come before the board? No? No, okay. So we're gonna have to take 3 or 4 votes here. The first one, let's vote, I'll take a motion to vote on Article 11, the CPC funding for the Buzzards Bay acquisition, which was $55,000, correct, Mr.?
Correct.
Do I have a motion?
I would move that we approve a request for $55,000 from CPC funds for the acquisition of property in Buzzards Bay.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Tom. Okay, so let's take a vote on Article 11, the acquisition of 3.3 acres in Buzzards Bay. Tom?
Yes.
So we have a motion, it was seconded, and we'll take a vote. Tom?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, the second Article 12 regarding the CPC funding of $2.1 million for 541 County Road. Do I have a motion first?
Yes. So moved.
So you move it? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have any discussion on this article?
I think we've had discussion.
Okay, all right. Tom,
Yes.
John,
No.
Carol,
I'm gonna vote yes.
and I'll vote yes. Okay, then we have, the motion passes. The next motion is to add $15,000 to the roof article
Correct,
for Station 3.
correct.
So move.
Second,
I'll second.
Carol? Any discussion? Okay. Tom,
Yes.
John,
Aye.
Carol,
Yes.
and Wayne, yes. Okay. Now, do you want us to vote to rescind on the SAFER grant, or just let it?
You can just vote to remove it from the list.
Okay. Okay, so do I have a motion to remove the SAFER grant from the list?
I would move that we remove the requested $45,000 for fire
Turnout gear,
turnout gear
yes.
from the list of requests from the fire department.
Do I have a second? Tom? Okay. Okay, in favor, Tom?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Unanimous. All right. I did not receive the minutes from, for last week's meeting. So the next meeting that we have scheduled is for December 2nd at 9 a.m. to review the fiscal 26 funding requests.
That's what we're asking. So we'll have all of the May town meeting requests to you in advance of December 2nd.
Whose idea was 9?
Just out of curiosity, I gotta ask, a 9 a.m. meeting has never happened before.
So we are asking that, I mean, we're looking at probably a pretty extensive list, and I would like to have all the departments heads here for you in person to talk to you.
I have no problem at 9 a.m., but I don't know about other people, but
I'm fine.
I'll check my schedule.
There's some time if that's not if that's not good, we can talk about it, but.
Oh, it should be.
It would be helpful on our end to have everybody here with you and, with you physically to talk about the requests. And
it's a Monday morning.
it's a Monday morning.
Yep. Okay.
Do we have to be awake?
Wow. I can fit that
You'd
in.
probably be better off if you're not, no.
I mean, we will still have Zooms available for Carol and for anyone on the board who wants to attend by Zoom, but this way it gives the department heads a chance to, come and do it with you.
Now, are we gonna do both capital outlay and FinCom at the same time? No, just
Just this is,
strictly capital outlay.
strictly capital outlay. Because the capital your report is due before the end of the calendar year.
Okay,
So this gives the department some time to present their requests, and it gives you a chance to send your report to the select board before, I think you have a December 31st deadline.
okay. 9 AM. All right. That's in.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Any public comment? No. There's nobody here. All right, anything else before the committee? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Not hearing any discussion. Tom? Yes?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Good night, everybody.
Good night.